I can admit when I was wrong, and I had falsely predicted that they were probably going to immediately put Allie and Austin together, and they kind of do, but not really. In the very first episode, she immediately reunites with Trish and Dez, but the majority of the episode is about how she wants to reunite with Austin, and she ends up meeting him halfway through the episode. And yeah, the next few episodes are about a road trip, and they were a big part of my childhood for some reason, even though it's like 3 episodes. Like, I remember them being on the road trip way longer. And the first episode is just fine. It's just like Allie and Austin end up agreeing to go on tour together. So obviously, they don't end up staying split up like I thought they would. Episode 2 is one of those typical episodes that's not real. Austin ends up going on the wrong tour bus, and all three friends decide to think about uh, what their life would be like without Austin. It's fine. In the third episode, they decide to go to a museum while on the road trip, and Austin, for whatever reason, decides to put on some shoes. They get stuck on his feet. They were on an exhibit, so he shouldn't have done that. And, now he's got to try and figure out how to get them off without people knowing that he's wearing expensive shoes and thinking that he stole them. It's a fine episode. The fourth episode of the show is just Trish getting jealous that Allie has a new friend named Kira. She never ends up showing up again, so she's pretty pointless. And then the side plot is Des and Austin are trying to find treasure because they found a treasure map. And it turns out that the said treasure map is just something that they give to kids at the restaurant that they go to a lot this season. Episode 5 is a Christmas episode. It's fine. They get some dolls, but they end up being the wrong dolls, so that causes problems. And Dez and his little arch enemy Chuck, end up going to fight to see who will be the better Santa Claus. And it's fine. The sixth episode is a parody of the TV show Glee, and it actually has a Disney star um, in the character that ends up being, Leo's semi arch nemesis for a while, but ends up joining the team in season 4 on Bonnet Island. I forget her name, but I instantly recognized her. And, it's just Allie apparently works in this club or whatever, and her and Austin end up fighting over it, and they end up making two completely different teams to see who will do better. This club is never mentioned again, but they do end up later mentioning her cloud watching club again, which is something that was introduced in season 1, so I thought that was cool. But they don't say it in this episode. I just remember they end up using it again. The next episode, Allie has to create like an alternate identity and try and be different than who she actually is, but it ends up being wrong. She gets like caught or whatever because her manager or whatever doesn't want her to write songs for Austin anymore, and he says if she does, he'll fire her, which she decides to, like I said, create an alternate ego to still write songs for Austin. And he ends up finding out, they have a confrontation, and everything works out in the end. It's pretty generic run of the mill episode. There is a funny joke though in this episode where this somewhat reoccurring interviewer news character that we see a lot ends up saying that he thinks that this new alter ego that is Allie is better than Allie to her face. But then later, when he sees Allie, he congratulates her on still working with Austin and how much he likes her more than that girl. And she simply tells him, I saw the show. And I thought that was a pretty funny joke. Austin agrees to have a date for Charity, and Allie realizes she still has feelings for him, so she doesn't want him to go on a date. Some rich girl ends up being the one to get the date, and Allie thinks that he might actually fall for him, so she tries to sabotage the date, but it turns out she actually has a boyfriend, and she's only doing this for Charity, like Austin is. So, it's fine. They also bring back that one crazy girlfriend that they introduced in season 2. Episode 9 is about Trisha's boyfriend. He ends up showing up a few times and is mentioned a few times after this episode, which I was surprised to find out, watching through the show. But yeah, it turns out Des gives her relationship advice as this character named Dr. Cupid, and people end up criticizing him when they find out that he's never had a girlfriend. Even though apparently his advice is working. Like, his advice is working, yet people are giving him shit for actually never having a girlfriend. So Trish decides to help him by getting him a girlfriend, which she also ends up being a somewhat reoccurring character throughout the show. And, that surprised me too, that these side characters have reoccurring partners. Austin ends up getting a bad review in a magazine, so now he has stage fright. I don't really care for this episode at all. Like, he's had criticism before. People had criticized him thinking he was going to be a one hit wonder. He's had a lot of criticism thrown his way, and he has been shown to sometimes receive criticism pretty badly. I mean, he had a whole fight with Allie in an episode once about it, but I don't know. I feel like it's overdone at this point, and the way he reacts is just kind of lame. Episode 11 is about a egotistical movie star that Austin has to work with, and it's fine. I don't really care for it. Episode 12 is about Allie's new crush, and for some reason, it's played by a very weird guy. Like, not the actor himself, but these kids are supposed to be in high school, and the guy she has a crush on seems too old for her. He seems like he's at least a high school student, yet there's a later episode about them going to prom together, so he's clearly not. Um, it's very confusing to me. The very next episode is called Austin's New Crush, and I think that's pretty funny because episode 12 was Allie's new crush. He ends up having a crush on this girl, but he rudely didn't originally want to go on a date with her at first because Des showed a bad photo of her that was her dressed up as like a nerd for some kind of event or something, is what she said. And she was like, she doesn't want to date a guy that's that shallow. So to prove he's not shallow, he decides to do whatever she says, like, and try and relate to her, even though he doesn't like actually relate to those things. Like, he's doing causes for her that he doesn't actually believe in, and she thinks that makes him not shallow. I think that just makes him kind of fake. Like, it's whatever. He ends up breaking up with her soon, so she's not like that major of a character. She's also Dez's girlfriend's sister for some reason. Number 14 is about Dez. He has a cousin who really likes Austin Moon, and he has like an obsession with things, but once he does those things, he, quits having the obsession. So they have him sing a concert with Austin, and he ends up, breaking the obsession. It's a fine episode. Number 15 is another one of those like fake dream scenario episodes where they want to go to a Zalians convention, but Dez ends up falling asleep, which is revealed at the end of the episode, and his dream is about them actually meeting real Zalians that want to kill them. It's a pretty decent episode. I liked it. Number 16 is, you guessed it, the episode about prom, which brings back Allie's boyfriend character. And I don't believe he shows up again after this episode, even though like they're supposed to still be friends. And he originally doesn't ask her to prom. He asks her to like some pig wrestling event or something instead. And obviously Allie's not into that, so they don't do that. And he ends up actually asking her to prom, but now she doesn't really want to go. It's just kind of a weird episode. And then Austin and Allie end up getting together in this episode. Well, kinda. It's a two-parter, which I did not expect a two-parter in Austin and Allie. where Austin accidentally reveals in front of Dez's girlfriend's sister that, he doesn't actually like the girl he's going out with. So that leads to some tension and a cliffhanger ending. But then they immediately ruin any tension by showing a scene of Dez and Chuck dancing. We also see Trisha's boyfriend again in this episode. And there's a little side plot with her not wanting her boyfriend to know that she went with somebody else to prom, even though she went with him as just a friend. Which makes it all the more confusing when she ends up deciding to dance with Dez at the prom. So she decides to go to prom with someone as just a friend, and the boyfriend's not mad. But she was worried that he was going to be mad that she went to prom with just a friend. It's so fucking stupid. I'm sorry. The next episode is, the continuation. I believe they actually get together in this episode. I kind of forgot. I finished this season a few weeks ago, but I really didn't care for season 3 as much as I did the first 2 seasons. So honestly, I had very little interest to review this, but there's only one more season left. The next episode is episode 18, which is Videos and Villains, which was an odd episode. They decide to do the interviewer guy again, right? And he shows Austin's top 10 performances. Number 10, for some reason, is the Jesse crossover. I feel like that's a little bit too low. Not to mention, that was the first time he got to perform on Times Square, which for the longest time in the show was hyped as this thing that Austin really, really, really wanted to do. Which, yeah, I guess it's the interviewer that's probably placing these clips, but that still feels like a very weird place to put it. Then the very next clip is one that's not even real. It's the dream sequence episode from season 2. How did they get footage of that? That wasn't a real episode. Did they end up recording it? I don't get it. I think that's really funny. The episode itself was fine. Episode 19 is called Beauties and Bullies. Trish gets the role of Beauty and the Beast, but she ends up getting backlash for it by a bully. And this is an anti-bullying episode. It's a little bit cringe. It's, obviously trying to tell kids to not bully because kids can be mean. And I do appreciate the sentiment, but I think overall the episode just wasn't that great. Number 20 is an episode where Austin and Ellie and the gang decide to just, tell each other scary stories because the power went out. It's fine. Number 21, we see Allie's dad for the first time in a little while. He was in the prom episode very briefly, but this episode somewhat features him heavily because he wants to sell the store. He ends up deciding not to do it, though. They've really cut down on Allie's dad having appearances now for some reason. And they've also cut down on the manager Jimmy having appearances. He doesn't really show up all that often. Though he ends up showing up in the very next episode, the finale, which is about how, for some reason, Jimmy decides he wants to be the least likable character in the show now. Because after this episode, I don't think I can look at him the same. He decides he gets to tell Allie and Austin that they can't date. That it would ruin his image. That, well, he's got a lot of girl fans. And they would appreciate if he was single because that makes them think that they can have a chance with him. So I'm sorry, but you have to break up with Ellie. You're his manager, but you do not get to manage his personal life. I didn't like him because he had an episode like this already where he tries to tell Austin he can't play basketball. You don't get to manage his personal life unless it conflicts with the schedule. You can't go oh, you can't do a game this day because you have to perform for me this day. That works. That is somewhat of a, good reason to tell someone to not do it. But you can't just say outright, no, you can't play basketball. And you can't tell someone outright, no, you can't have a relationship. It's even funnier because he literally ends up dating his daughter in the previous season. He dates Kira Starr in the previous season. He was already dating somebody. And I'm pretty sure it was somewhat public. And not to mention, he did like a music video with Kira before they dated that was like a music video where he was pretending to date her. I guess that was okay and didn't piss off the fans back then, but now it could. This episode just makes Jimmy really unlikable, and overall, it's not the greatest finale. I do think they end up breaking up, maybe. Um, I didn't really care. It's been like 3 weeks since I've watched the finale, but yeah, it's whatever. It took me a little while to finish season 3. It's probably one of the worst seasons of a show that I've watched in a while. Um, like of shows that I actually enjoy. Like I was also not a huge fan of Henry Danger season 5, where otherwise I liked the first 4 seasons. But I'm hoping season 4 will be better because anticlimactic finale, and they make a reoccurring character a dick for some reason.